How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Phil Talk Sports Super Bowl preview show. Super Bowl 56 is just about a week away, and here to help me break it down is PR 52 and Charger Dude 95. Whenever I get these guys on the show at the same time, it reminds me that I never came up with a cool YouTube name, and I have to deal with that all the time. But thank you guys for being here. You guys ready for the Super Bowl?
I'm ready. I'm wondering how long we're gonna do this before we devolve into some Jalen Hurts conversation. So, and I'm ready for it. I've prepared for that too, because there's always a random diversion that happens at some point.
Well, believe it or not, there's more important things to talk about than Jalen Hurts right now. Hank, how's it going, man?
I'm good. I had you on, I think, like 2 weeks ago, so that was a good experience. And I am planning on having another power hour with another Eagles YouTuber debating Jalen Hurts. So
Okay.
I think it's safe for me to keep my points under wraps so that I don't divulge my scheme in the debate. So
Yeah. Don't give away too much too early. You're right.
Yeah, Nick, you shouldn't have to worry about that. Like you said, we did a power hour and we got a lot of our Jalen Hurts talk out of the way already, so we can actually talk other football for a change.
I guess.
So we'll jump right into it. Super Bowl 56, Cincinnati Bengals and the LA Rams. If you told me before the year that you had the Rams, I might believe you. They got a star-studded roster. They got Matthew Stafford, right? I might believe you. But if you told me you had the Bengals in the Super Bowl, I would call you a liar because nobody saw this run coming. I don't know how happy the networks are about this. There's definitely better matchups they could have had. But this is, every once in a while I enjoy these like mismatched Super Bowls or whatever. But it really comes down to the story of the two quarterbacks, as I mentioned Stafford a minute ago. Matthew Stafford and Joe Burrow, the emergence of Joe Burrow. There's been all the talk in the AFC about Mahomes and Allen and the great game that they had, and then Burrow came right underneath them and stole the AFC out from underneath them both. So we're going to kick it off here. We'll start with Hank. We'll go to Nick, and then I'll give my thoughts here at the end. But out of the Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford, who do you think is the better story to make it to the Super Bowl?
You got to go with Matthew Stafford, in my opinion. I'm not saying that Joe Burrow has no story at all, because of course we all remember he tore a bunch of ligaments at the end of the 2020 season. They seemed all for naught. The Bengals seemed to be one of those teams that struggled a lot in the preseason. People were questioning whether Jamar Chase I think made a mistake in not playing during the 2020 college football season. I believe he decided to opt out.
Right.
He was drafted 4th overall. And, I guess you could say that if the Eagles had lost to the Bengals, the Eagles would have taken that pick, but they wouldn't have an extra 1st overall pick or 1st round selection. And obviously they came back, they got things together, and they had a winning season after half a decade of not doing diddly poo, to quote Jim Mora there. But I would say that it's Matthew Stafford, because the fact of the matter was Matthew Stafford was drafted in 2009, and he spent over a decade with the Detroit Lions, and people were wondering whether or not Matthew Stafford was worth anything, because he had been to the postseason 2 or 3 times, never won a single playoff game. And you either felt really sorry for Matthew Stafford or just thought, this is the kind of guy who's going to get stuck in mediocrity, kind of like Tony Romo did with the Cowboys for a long time. Always put up some good seasons, but was never able to get it done when it got to the playoffs. Here he gets traded to the Rams. He actually gets traded to a team with a real coach in Sean McVay, who seems to be the master of disaster when it comes to offense. He annihilates other teams. The Rams have been one of the more successful teams in the NFC over the last half decade. And, he's able to put enough together to win enough football games to get to the playoffs, finally defeat the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, and go to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to say that it's Matthew Stafford, just because his journey to the Super Bowl and his journey over the past, how long has it been? Like,
I think this is
12 years,
year 14,
12,
13
years.
right now. Yeah.
It's just a longer journey, and it with more bumps and bruises along the way. I feel like Joe Burrow, he's kind of just getting started in his second year. And you know, where he came from in college, being a Heisman Trophy winner and a champion at the college football playoff level, you know, we expected greatness from him eventually. But with Matthew Stafford, you know, there was always that question mark hanging over his head. Was he wasted talent on the Detroit Lions, much like Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson were? Or does he just not have what it takes to get there?
I got to tell you, he was wasting talent. But in terms of the two quarterbacks, I'll save you the next 5 years of discussion on that one. Joe Burrow, they're basically the same guy, is the quarterback that I'd choose between the two, mainly because of the, you know, guys that he went through. I would argue that the conference championship comeback win for Burrow was significantly more impressive. Given you know, the challenge of San Francisco and how sneaky they were, they beat a number one seed themselves, so they were legit. But yeah, Joe Burrow's that guy, and I'm a Charger fan, so Justin Herbert, it's like a godsend. You know, he comes in after Phillip Rivers, and it's like, all right, the next 15 years, you know, I don't have to worry about that position. It's only the other positions and the head coach I got to worry about now. So Joe Burrow is that guy, and he's shocked the world, and I couldn't be any more impressed by this guy. And with Matthew Stafford, as great as he is, you also have to add in how much of that was Sean McVay, and that will probably be the question we ask for the next couple of years.
So without rehashing what either of you guys said, and that's going to kind of be my burden to bear as we go through this here, the way I look at Matthew Stafford is like, this is probably his last shot, because the way the Rams are built, like, by next year, this team's going to look completely different. Like, their window is right now. I don't even know that it carries into next year. So he might be, you know, I would maybe inch a little bit towards that. The way I look at Joe Burrow, though, is like, he might come and take the world by storm, kind of the way Pat Mahomes did. But what's funny about these teams, like when the Chiefs won their first one, everyone thought, oh, this is it for the next, like, buckled up. This is the next half decade to a decade, right? And it's really hard to win that second one, right? The Seahawks were supposed to do that. The Eagles were supposed to be the new normal. It's very hard to get back to that. So while I can sit here and say, yeah, Burrow's young, he could probably bounce back from a loss like this. How many teams have you watched those, like, America's Games things where, like, the younger players are like, it didn't really hit us because we thought we'd be back here, and they never did. So, like, just because the Bengals on paper could, you know, keep this team together and move forward, it could be really just depend on how this works out. But with Stafford, like I said, 13 years in, I think this is his shot. After this, the Rams are probably going to be decent, right? But I don't think they're going to be at this level with firepower. When the Rams were in the Super Bowl a few years ago, I thought it was painfully obvious. If they had any quarterback not named Jared Goff, they probably beat the Patriots, right? And now they're back in the Super Bowl with a considerably better quarterback. I remember that was a debate at one point. That debate has obviously gone out the window. So I will go with Matthew Stafford, but the Joe Burrow one, I'm not going to dismiss as easily as just like, oh, he's young. If he loses, he can bounce back, because those windows are never as big as you ever think they are, no matter what the team is, no matter how dominant it is. So I got Matthew Stafford just by a hair, because this is his last shot, I think, really. And it'd be crazy the first year he comes in and makes this happen. He could literally just be the missing piece for LA. And as we transition from that, there is a lot of, you know, the Stafford McVay thing where he finally got the quarterback he needed. And of course, you got Zach Taylor, who, you know, picked Joe Burrow to basically put his head coaching career next to. Like, this is the guy I'm rolling with. So we'll kind of run this back one more time. Who do you think this win would mean more, and what would it mean for each coach if they lose this game?
Hank?
So when it comes to coach, I feel like at the end of the day, it would mean more to, because I feel like Sean McVay is the better coach. I feel like I kind of disagree in the sense of it, like the Rams are going to look different, but they were in this spot 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it is more important for Zach Taylor to win this Super Bowl, because I don't know how many more times he's going to be back there. You know, you look back at the AFC Championship game, and it was just 100% not 100%, but it was a huge breakdown by the Chiefs when it comes to coaching. Like, we really haven't seen that kind of Andy Reid with the Kansas City Chiefs, but we saw that a lot in Philly, which is why I was starting to get hot flashes there. And the fact that the Chiefs linemen just couldn't sack Joe Burrow. Like, there were a lot of, when you win the Super Bowl, you need lucky moments. With Sean McVay, I feel like whether he wins or loses this thing, I think he'll be back. For Zach Taylor, I feel like he's in the situation where they've got to win, or they probably won't return back there. And do you want me to talk about quarterbacks too?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to you got to go with Matthew Stafford.
Mm-hmm.
It's way more important that he wins now because, like you said, he's been in the league for 13 years. Who knows how long he'll be with the Rams, just because of salary cap reasons. I mean, they're the kings of attempting to buy championships. They don't have much when it comes to draft capital. They have a lot of cap space in a lot of these, talented veteran players. I don't know when this might be his final hurrah to try to do it, because you don't know when he's going to be back with the Rams, or how long he's going to be with the Rams, unless he tells them, hey, I'll take a discount to play for you guys.
Right.
So I think that Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, I feel like it's more like his one shot. And then with Stafford, I feel like on the other end, as a quarterback, it's more like his one shot.
Yeah, great points there, Hank. In terms of coach, I feel both, which is funny. I would say Zach Taylor's the one with more to prove, of course, one with more on the line, but both have interesting storylines for if they lose, interesting narratives into the offseason, because while we dismiss it now because the Rams look much more vaunted, we fail to forget that the Rams, I believe, are the highest scoring offense the year that they put up 3 in the Super Bowl. And they were this year the 7th offense in the NFL in points. So if they put up another dud, I think Sean McVay is going to get the same tag that Kyle Shanahan did, not quite like coughing up second halves, but, fair or not, we tend to tag coaches, for dual bad Super Bowl performances. And I think that could be a new narrative for Sean McVay. And I think for Zach Taylor, this is like a fire in the bottle type of thing. He's got to take advantage of a situation like this because, he was one of the worst coaches and very much on the hot seat after 2 years. And then he just catches fire. So I think a lot's on the line for Zach Taylor, and people start thinking about the horrible seasons he's had. But with Sean McVay, I think there's a lot on the line there too. And then in terms of the quarterbacks, just quickly, I think that the more to prove has got to be, even though it's close, both have proven a lot. Both have really surpassed expectations. But I'd probably say Stafford. I think it'd be pretty disappointing knowing that it feels like the Bengals have a little bit more ability to win in the future than the Rams, considering, like Phil said, they have so many first-round picks to other teams now. And let's not forget, while it appears the AFC North is in a bit of shambles with Roethlisberger retiring and then the Browns being the Browns, I think for the Rams, they feel like we really got lucky winning the NFC West, a tiebreaker here, a tiebreaker there. And next year we're playing on the road in the wild card round. So this is a big moment for Stafford.
I see a little bit of like Doug Peterson in Zach Taylor in the sense that like nobody's going to put Doug Peterson in the Hall of Fame, right? But he went on the biggest stage and outcoached a coach that was clearly better than him in all facets on paper. And he's very much the reason that there's a banner hanging, behind my head right now. And if that's his one moment in the sun that he got his book written about and everything, there's a lot of coaches that would take that. Like, at the end of the day, if, the rest of his Cincinnati Bengals coaching career and other coaching career is average at best, people can always look at, but in 2022, like they put it all, or 2021, 2022, they put it all together. And like, sometimes you chase the white whale and you get it the one time. Whereas McVay, and Nick, you kind of touched on it a little bit. He's looked as a genius, right? Offensive genius. This is great coach. started so young. Anyone he's ever like shooken hands with gets jobs just from, being near the guy, right? And if you, like you said, put a dud in 2 Super Bowls, how much longer are you called a genius? How much it's almost like the Andy Reid stigma. We loved his offensive mind, but he kind of had that stigma for a while of like, dude just can't really win when it matters. And McVay is, I don't know that would start with this. I guess it would depend if he just gets like blown out or something, or puts up very little offensive production, like you said, 3 points in the last Super Bowl. So I think he's got a lot more to lose, whereas Zach Taylor, his legacy, win or lose, could just be, guy was a pretty decent coach. When he had the right guys around him, he could win games. I think that's going to be his legacy, maybe either way. It's just one could be like, remember when he pulled off the Super Bowl, or, oh, remember when he fell short in the Super Bowl? Like that last sentence might change, but a lot of the book will be the same otherwise, I think. And quarterbacks, we kind of touched on a little bit already, so I won't continue with that. Hank, you had something to say?
At the end of the day, you have to play the Super Bowl to win. Yeah. Because it is the greatest stage in all the world, and everybody's watching, everybody's tuning in, everybody has high expectations for that game. And you better win, because if you don't win, and obviously Phil knows this because we've both been on both sides of this.
Yep.
Whether we were running away from the confetti or running towards the confetti, you better win, because if you don't win, then especially in the case of the Bengals, you're still snake bitten.
Yeah.
You are going to be called the Bungles until the next time you go. And when it comes to them, they hadn't gone for 32, 33 years. So you better take control of that opportunity right now, because it's better to be a one-hit wonder than be a no-hit wonder, because nobody remembers the no-hit wonders. Everyone remembers at least the one-hit wonder. And, when it comes to the Super Bowl, either team can win. Records, you can throw records out the window. You can throw playoff wins out the window. You can throw experience out the window. You better win, or else look at social media. You're going to get blasted from one side or the other.
Every Super Bowl season, talking season, if you want to call it that, 2 guys that always come up are like Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson, right? Because they're the conversation of who's the worst quarterback to win a Super Bowl. And both have said, like, because statistically there has to be one, right? But they're still in a group that a bunch of other quarterbacks are not. So, at the end of the day, winning it, is all that matters.
I think it has to be Trent Dilfer, because at least Brad Johnson had a job with that team for 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say the same for Trent Dilfer, because Trent Dilfer was literally released in the offseason after he won the Super Bowl.
He wasn't even the starter for the beginning of the year.
No, he was essentially the backup who took the place, played game manager, and essentially Brian Billick looked at him in the offseason. I mean, we've all seen the Hard Knocks special where he was just like, sorry, dude, you were the starting quarterback, and we're telling you to scram.
And I also got to throw.
He got a worse treatment than what you could say with Doug Williams or Jeff Hostetler or Nick Foles.
Mm-hmm.
All of those guys stayed for at least one more season, and even so, were considered the backup. But with Trent Dilfer, they were like,
"Yep, see you." I do have to throw this in with Brad Johnson, though. He's the first quarterback to ever throw a touchdown pass to himself. So he also has that over Trent Dilfer, too. Got to throw that in there. I'm going to reverse the order on this one because I think Nick would have a little more insight on this. The Rams are a 4.5-point favorite. They are the quote-unquote hosting team in their home stadium for the 2nd year in a row. And it's funny because that's never happened until last year. And now we get it 2 years in a row. And both of them have a yeah, but, right? Like Tampa got to host it. Yeah, but it's COVID. It's only like 40% full. It's a home field, but is it really a home field? And now with the Rams, it's a yeah, but they don't really have a home field advantage. We talked about this about the Niners basically took that place over. And Nick, you've been in that stadium obviously to watch the Chargers, not the Rams. But what do you think? Is there any form of home field advantage for the Rams in this game? They are favored by 4.5 for what that's worth. But as someone who's been in that stadium, what do you think?
Yeah, first of all, that stadium is just incredible. And I was at a game against the Browns, another AFC North team, and a team with a pretty passionate fan base who's willing to travel.
Mhm.
I felt like it was 60-40 Chargers fans there, but the 40 was louder than the 60 for the Chargers. And I feel like it'll be a similar situation, about 60-40, and the Rams will be over, like the noise will be drowned out is the word to use. All right. Drowned out by the Bengals. So not much, not a huge home field advantage, but to me, I feel like there will be a lot of noise on both sides, where last year's Super Bowl, like you mentioned, with so little fans there, I feel like it wasn't, the noise wasn't even a factor in either side. At least here, you might get one false start that you wouldn't, in last year's Super Bowl.
Sure.
I would say that I do have a strong opinion on this. I'm surprised that the Rams are 4-point favorites here.
4.5.
What?
I think that it should be closer.
Mhm.
Looks like our podcast just got started.
And what I'm gonna say is that, look, I used to be one of those people who would be like, how could you not stack your own stadium even during a losing season? And what I don't like about the Rams this season is the fact that, how are you, a team that has been the most successful or most consistent team in the NFC over the past 5 or 6 years, and you can't even stack your own stadium? You know what I'm saying? Like, you would think that there would be, like, because, like the Rams, they come from St. Louis, they go to LA, they weren't very successful, and now they're successful. You would think there would be kind of like a bandwagon effect to the point where they would be able to stack their stadium. And I get it with where the Chargers are concerned. They used to be in San Diego, and now they're in LA, and they don't really have a fan base in LA because it used to be in San Diego. So I kind of get that.
They deserted their fan base. That's the difference there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, guys are still pissed. I can tell you.
But the thing about the Chargers is they haven't been as successful, so you haven't seen as big of like a bandwagon effect or more people becoming Chargers fans. Because in LA, there were already a lot of 49ers and Raiders fans and Cowboys fans living there. So how are you going to, and people are leaving California in droves, whether you're Northern California or Southern California. So I guess I don't understand how you don't have a larger fan base, especially when you're heading to the Super Bowl. And in the NFC Championship game, that stadium was like 35% Rams fans, 65% 49ers fans. And, the Rams fans were loud at certain points in time, but you could see the dominant presence of red in that stadium.
Definitely, yeah.
And what's weird is the fact that I remember when the Eagles and the Patriots played in Super Bowl 52, there were more Eagles fans in that stadium.
No doubt.
Because Patriots fans were sitting back there and being like, well, we've seen 5 wins, and we've seen 7 of these or 8 of these in the past, like 25, 30 years. So we've seen this, but more Eagles fans showed up to it. And I do think that was at least a small factor in why the Eagles won. But I believe you're going to see more Bengals fans at this game because they've been waiting. They're thirsty. They're hungry to watch their team possibly win a Super Bowl. And Rams fans, while they do exist and while a lot of them are passionate, I don't think you'll see as many of them there. So, I mean, the Rams do have the home field advantage because they're at their home field, but they're the visiting team.
Right.
Because they are the visiting team. Will they get the visiting team's locker room?
That happened to the Bucs. Real quick, that happened to the Bucs last year. So I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. They do get the visiting.
The Bucs were the home team.
They wore the white. I don't know. I remember that being a
They
story.
wore
down here.
white, but it was because they chose to wear white.
Gotcha. I just remember that being a story that, like, weirdly enough, they got the visitor locker room too.
But it's just one of those things where I don't see this as being a Rams as being 4-point favorites. I think that it should be closer. Now, could they be favorites? Yes. But I think it should be closer than that. And I do think that the Bengals will have more of an advantage because I think more of their fans will be there.
It's worth mentioning too, guys, that Hank has spent a significant amount of time living on the West Coast too, so he's pretty familiar with these fan bases and stuff. He might not live there now; he lives in Texas. Hank, I don't know how you do it, but the fact that you did live out there for a while is worth mentioning, I think. I think the only advantage is just like the familiarity of not having to travel, right? Just like you don't have to get on a plane, you're not staying in a hotel, you're probably staying at home. I know, like, they might get a hotel just to like block out the noise or whatever of family life for the night or two before. But that's the only advantage I see. I remember, so like my buddy Kramer a couple of years ago went to a Seahawks Rams game when they were still at the Coliseum because he's, it's like a bucket list, want to do the Coliseum before they get rid of it. And even then he was like, there was, if it was 50-50 Seahawks and Rams fans, the Seahawks fans were way more into the game. It was more of just like there was Rams people there and Rams jerseys, but it was just like a place to hang out. They didn't look at it as like, oh, I got to go and cheer on my team kind of thing. And Nick, you might want to plug your ears when I say this, but like, that's a very LA thing to do. Unless your team is, look at the Kobe years, the late Kobe years, nobody was in Staples crypto.com arena, and which is funny to say, like, your team's got to be winning where your team's in the Super Bowl and it's down the street from you. And you got to think about going. Now, granted, the ticket prices are incredible, so that's worth mentioning. But overall, if the Rams have any sort of advantage, it's more just the familiarity of not having to travel. And like the Bengals do have a lot of young players, so I don't know if like being in the Super Bowl, on top of the Super Bowl, being in LA, like, is there a chance a player or two the spotlight's too big for them? Potentially, where the Rams are clearly the veteran team and they've been here before, so they might be a little more comfortable going into the game. That's the only advantage. I don't think the Bengals are going to have 4 false starts because of this crowd or anything crazy like that.
I'll never forget the game Carson Wentz tore his ACL or an MCL.
That whole leg.
I remember that the Eagles went to play at the Coliseum, and I specifically remember hearing a report that Fox Sports paid random people to wear Rams jerseys and be in the stands. And I remember thinking to myself, then why did you move to LA?
Yeah. There was a Craigslist post about that, honestly, about like you get paid like $100 and you get a free jersey and food comp or something. Like, yeah, that was I don't know necessarily for that game, but that first year that the Rams played in like the soccer stadium, the Galaxy Stadium, that was a big deal at the time when they were playing there. I'm sorry, the Chargers were playing there. But like in that year, yeah, it's a real thing. It's pretty funny. And I wonder if there's people in St. Louis, like, that's the other thing. If the Rams lose this game, it's like you can take the team, but we got the one ring this franchise has. And for what it's worth, the Rams not started, but we're in LA prior to St. Louis. But try telling a St. Louis fan that they're still going to be, still on it a little bit, I guess.
I think they started in Cleveland.
I was gonna say that's why I didn't want to they didn't originate there, but they were in LA.
The Cardinals, I think they did start in St. Louis, but they also were in Cleveland too.
Yeah. And then because I think the original Cardinals started in Chicago, if I have that correctly.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah, they did play in Chicago as well.
Yeah.
By the way, just got a notification, Mr. Charger Dude 95, his Bengals Rams simulation for the Super Bowl just dropped. So everybody go check that out. Good timing, Nick. Way to time that right in the middle of this. Perfect.
Right.
Perfect time for a transition. Then players to watch. And when I say this, we know Cooper Kupp is awesome, right? We know Jamar Chase and all that stuff. Who is somebody outside of them, let's say those 2 star players, who's somebody that you think if they go off, it really helps their team's chances of winning?
All right, I'll take this one first.
Sure.
First one for Cincinnati, I will go it's CJ Uzuma as the player to watch for them, and I would say so because while the Rams have an incredible front, I'd love to have one more rip around so we can get predictions. I don't know if that was your next plan, Phil.
Yeah,
but,
we'll go quick on this. We got about 10 minutes left. So,
but the Bengals tight end, not just Azuma, but even Drew Sample too. They're up against a linebacking core that I would say is more so rush the passer, stop the run. With Von Miller being up in age, he's not necessarily covering, guys top passer or, guys top pass catcher at tight end. So I think that's a good matchup for the Bengals. And then for the Rams, I think the Bengals don't have a very deep pass secondary. They were one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL last year. So I'd go Odell Beckham. I think they'll put plenty of attention on Cooper Kupp. So Odell Beckham, maybe even Van Jefferson too, I think are two solid matchups for them. But I think there's going to be a lot of great plays offensively in the game. I think both quarterbacks will have monster numbers. Uzuma and Beckham will be the recipients, in my opinion, of those great performances.
Good call.
So I'm all about the running game. Cam Akers just came back from the injury list, and he looked relatively good against both the Buccaneers and the 49ers at the end of the game to start up a running game. I like the Rams running game or running backs to see what they can do, whether it's Sony Michel or whether it's Cam Akers. And, we're talking about the Bengals offense and how much we're giving such praise to their skill players. What about Higbee? I mean, not Higbee. What about T. Higgins?
Right.
What about Tyler
he's
Boyd? Mm-hmm. I hope Uzuma plays in the game. We remember he got that really bad injury. I just read just now. I hate to be one of those actually kind of guys, if anyone's ever
Come on,
seen
man.
That. But I think they're not sure if he's gonna play or not.
Yeah.
It's still up in the air. But I do hope he plays because he's very talented.
Yeah,
obviously. But you everyone's got their eye on Jamar Chase, but very underrated their other two wide receivers. And everyone talks about how great Dallas's top three wide receivers are. You look at the Bengals' top three wide receivers, they each had 1,000 receiving yards.
It's crazy.
Yeah. You guys made this really easy for me because you mentioned who I wanted to say. If they're going to double, triple team Cooper Kupp, Odell's got to have a big day. I had Cam Akers ahead of him because I've watched that guy in college so much at Florida State and stuff. And when he goes crazy, like there's very few people that can stop him. And him with Sony Michel sprinkled in could really open things up for the Rams. And T. Higgins was exactly what I was going to say for a similar thing. We know how great Jamar Chase is. So if someone else has to make a play, he's like the veteran receiver on that team, even though he's only like fourth or fifth year or something like that. So I definitely see that with him. So we got about 5 minutes left here, guys, and we'll go ahead, do one more roundabout and do our predictions. I'll go ahead and kick it off. I think this is going to be, I don't see this being a blowout on either end. Like you said, the 4.5 points is maybe a little too much, especially for the Rams where they are. I am going to go with the Rams. I think at the end of the day, the talent's going to be a little too much. The coaching might be a little too much. I'll go Rams 31-28.
All right. Well, I guess call me silly, since they shouldn't be 4.5 point favorites, but I'm loving the Rams. I got them winning the game. I'm going 29-17. I think the Rams have so much firepower. And here's one matchup to close this out that I think will be very important. Joe Burrow was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL this year. And that offensive line has been much scrutinized throughout the course of the season, and they're up against maybe their stiffest competition up front. Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, and, the rest of those crew is, I think, a pretty big matchup that a guy like Sean McVay, who I think we can agree probably has the coaching edge over Zach Taylor, he can figure out some ways. I know he's an offensive guy, but I'm sure he can figure out ways to take advantage of, that defensive line. And what gets lost is that, in that game against the Titans, the divisional round, Tannehill threw 3 horrible interceptions to lose that game. And I think if they can sack Burrow, maybe not 9 times like Tennessee, but 5 or 6 times like LA is totally capable of doing.
Right.
I think if Stafford avoids the mistakes, I know that's a big if, but I think he can, given all the stakes here. I think that matchup will be way too important for Los Angeles not to take advantage of.
So I always give my prediction the day after or the day of the Super Bowl when I give all of my kind of like my prop thing. Like this guy will get this amount of yards or touchdowns. There was one year where this guy named Shango, Dallas Cowboys show, he put out a bunch of them and had people respond to it and what everyone was going to get. He put up a bunch of the props and who was going to get what. And I got like 4 out of 7 of them correct. So I've been doing that every year. At this point, I think I'm going to give the edge to the Bengals, but I'm not sure who I'm actually going to pick. We need to wait and see who's playing.
But if you had to pick
playing.
Now, you're picking the Bengals.
But I'm not gonna. I'm gonna leave the score until then.
Sure.
But what I will say, and I said this before, I think that the Bengals should be extremely happy that they're not playing the 49ers. Because I think if they were playing the 49ers, they would lose. I think that was the one team that they didn't want to play because of the history and because I feel like the 49ers have a better pass rush. I feel like they have a better defense. And obviously the offense is a strength for the Bengals. I think it's better that they're playing against the Rams because I think that they will be able to get it done on the run. And they have so many receivers that it'll be a matchup problem on the backside for the Rams. But tentatively, I am going to give the slight edge to the Bengals.
All right, guys. Well, just under the wire. Everyone enjoy the Super Bowl, and everyone remember what's at stake. And it's where'd it go? One of these at stake. Super Bowl ring. They'll be giving them out in about a week's time here. Super Bowl 56. So for Charger Dude 95, NPR 52, I am Phil Talk Sports. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you afterwards.